Hi everybody, welcome into Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping show. My name is Matt Bernier. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's what's on deck this week on Out of the Gate. Mike Beer and I will give you a couple of horses that you can throw in your DRF horse watch in our opening segment. Then we'll transition into the DRF bets race of the day for Saturday. Happens to be the La Cañada out at Santa Anita. Nicole Russo has her pedigree pick. She's going to take a look at 3 different races from Gulfstream Park on Saturday afternoon. Mike and I will then come back, take a look at the Marshals River down at Gulfstream Park. And then we'll throw it into the La Cienegas, also happening out at Santa Anita, going down the hill 6.5 furlongs. Jonathan Kinchin takes a look at the exacta in that exact race, the La Cienegas, and David Aragona from Timeform US. He'll take a look at the 7th from Aqueduct. Mike and I will wrap things up with some best bets, and we'll get you out of here, hopefully in good shape, getting you ready for this weekend's big races. Without further ado, let's get going. Here is the Horse Watch segment. Time for the Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, I'm going to let you pronounce the name of this horse that you've got earmarked as a horse watch, because I'm not going to even bother trying. I can't do it.
I was hoping it was going to fall to you, so I didn't have to sound like an idiot. Tickvin Flu, I'm going to say, is the name of this horse. A Street Sense, newly turned 3-year-old, making his debut very early in January, going 7 furlongs to boot. I thought this horse ran really well, Matt. He's a Steve Asmussen firster. We're going to pick up the replay now. We're going to pick it up at the top of the stretch. This horse has been battling a very solid pace in this race right from the start. You can see him starting to put away the other pace challengers in here. The horse that's going to run second to him, swinging up from a perfect trip on the outside with all the momentum. But Tickvin Flu, he got bet in this race. He is going to turn away that horse who sat the perfect trip, and he's going to go clear at the end with a 78 buyer. I thought this was a really nice debut for a young horse who's got plenty of forward to go for Steve Asmussen from this point on. I think this horse ran really well first time out.
Yeah, the filly that I like, she's run a few more times than that horse has, but I think both visually very impressive. I'm talking about Fancy Dress Party. We talked about her in a stakes preview last weekend leading into her stakes race, her stakes debut down at Gulfstream. This is her. We're going to take a look swinging into the stretch. In the Glitter Woman, she's already out on the front end. Keep in mind, this was her first time on a fast main track, and boy, she couldn't have looked much more impressive. She goes off and wins by almost 6 lengths, earns a 79 buyer speed figure. She's really done anything that they've asked her to do. She's won at Keeneland, Churchill, and Gulfstream. She's won between 5.5 and 6. She's won on sloppy sealed tracks and now a fast main strip. The 79 buyer, maybe it's not going to knock your socks off, but at the same time, I think this sets her up potentially going forward very, very nicely. I don't know if the connections will stretch her out in distance. There's a part of me that would rather than keep her going short. But at the same time, when you've got a filly like this who's never been challenged, I can understand anyone that gets Kentucky Oaks fever. Fancy Dress Party, maybe she's one that you want to throw in your DRF horse watch. Let's get into some handicapping. We'll start off with the Saturday DRF bets race of the day, the Grade 3 La Cañada out at Santa Anita. Time to take a look at the Saturday DRF bets race of the day. We're going to take a look at the La Cañada Stakes out at Santa Anita. You can get the expanded stakes preview over on video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Forms YouTube channel. You can also get free formulator past performances over on the Race of the Day page on drf.com. This, Mike, we talked about it a little bit when we went over the stakes preview for the Race of the Day. It's a crapshoot. It looks like there's some serious weather coming in. This could be run on a sloppy sealed track. Some of these girls aren't proven on it. Some of these girls are. You name it, you can go 15 different ways. I don't think anyone deserves to be a short favorite in here, and ultimately you're going to shop not necessarily for the favorite, but you're going to get a horse that arguably has the most upside as far as 2-turn dirt races are concerned in true royalty.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I liked about her, Matt. She's, obviously a newly turned 4-year-old here. She's relatively lightly raced still, and I still think there's some question about, just how good she is and just exactly what she wants to do. Is she ultimately going to be a dirt router? I mean, I'm not so sure, but they've only tried it once on the main track. That was in the Grade 3 Torrey Pines last August. And I thought she ran well in this race. Now, we're picking it up at the top of the stretch. She's already got this thing pretty well in control. But she was, hung up 4 wide around the first turn as they tried to get forward with her. She stayed on the outside, pressing the pace the entire way. I like the way she took it over. I like the way she finished it off. It makes me feel like she can go this far. And I just wanted the horse maybe with a little bit of upside in this race. I'm hoping she takes a little step forward here.
From a price standpoint, I don't like the price on Escape Clause. She's 5-2. She's the morning line favorite. But there is just a part of me that looks at a race like this and says, you know, at the end of the day, maybe you're just better off taking the horse that you think is the best. And I just think at the end of the day, Escape Clause might be the most talented. We're going to go back to her most recent start, and don't be alarmed. Came on grass, and it came against better horses. This was a run in the Robert J. Frankel most recently. You see her, she's all the way at the back of the pack. She's going to eventually weave her way through and come with a nice belated finish to ultimately get fourth. But you have horses like Fahan Mura in there, and Quebec is a decent enough horse. But 2 starts back, this mare, she went too long. Red carpet handicap, mile and 3/8, not her game. 3 starts back, she was moved up via disqualification to win the Catherine Crosby at a flat mile on grass. But she has proven on the main track in Canada in the past. The other important thing to note, if it does end up coming up wet, she's proven over a wet track. She's 1 for 1 already. So again, it's a kind of a Captain Obvious pick in the grand scheme of things because she's the chalk. But I just kind of feel like maybe she's the best horse in the race. I'm going to go with the number 6 Escape Clause in the DRF Bets race of the day for Saturday, the La Cañada. We're going to throw it into Nicole Russo, her pedigree pick this week. We've got a few, I should say, races down at Gulfstream Park that she's going to take a look at. And then when we come back, we're going to pick it up and we're going to look at the Marshals River from Gulfstream.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate. There are 3 maiden special weight races for 3-year-olds as part of the card on Saturday at Gulfstream with some interesting pedigree notes at each of them. We'll take a quick run through those so you can add those to your notes for the card. We'll go in chronological order on the card, starting with the 7th race for fillies going 6 furlongs. Most of the horses we're going to highlight here are first-time starters, starting with Pescada. The Speightstown filly was a $390,000 weanling, and from a female family that should give her some speed and some class. She's out of Grade 3 winner Nikki Smarty Pants, and it's the immediate family of Turf Grade 1 winner Diamond Drilla, as well as stakes winner Bonnie Blue Flag, who was multiple Grade 1 place sprinting. Lady Kate, also an expensive purchase. The daughter of Bernardini, cost $485,000 as a yearling. Her dam Princess Taya was a Grade 2 winner, and she's already produced a graded place runner from the same EP Indy sire line. She's a Problem by Candy Ride is from the family of multiple Grade 1 winner McKinsey. And lastly, one of the horses in here with a prior start as you move along through the field is Lavish, who was second on debut last July coming off a layoff. The Malibu Moon filly, who is out of a stakes winner, is from the family of Grade 2 winners Pacific Wind and Strike a Deal. Moving along to the 8th race, also for 3-year-old fillies, going a mile on the turf, and Can't Buy Me Love has a pedigree that is all turf and international class. She's by Warfront, out of Together, a Group 1 winning daughter of Galileo, and she's already the dam of a couple of stakes-placed horses. This is also a long-winded female family as well. I don't see the mile as being a problem. Now, Beautiful Lover, who cost almost $500,000 as a juvenile early last year, is by a multi-purpose sire and Arch, but from a classy female family that's really more dirt-oriented. She's a half-sister to Grade 2 winning millionaire Zevo from the family of Dubai World Cup winner Well Armed. And lastly, we'll take a peek at the 10th race, which is another 6-furlong maiden sprint for 3-year-olds. And what a classy and speed-oriented pedigree Brainstorm has. The son of
DRF Sports Forum Digital Edition, your ultimate weekly betting guide. Published by Daily Racing Form, DRF Sports Forum delivers all of the analysis and insight you need for every NFL game and more than 40 college football matchups. Beat the spread with powerful trends and sharp angles. Tap into best bets, expert picks, parlay winners, and more. All for just $4.99 per issue. Get this week's edition free. Visit drf.com/sportsforum. Enter code DRF Sports.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Back here on Out of the Gate, we're going to take a look at one of the graded stakes races from Gulfstream Park coming up on Saturday. Let's throw up the field for the 11th race. This is the Grade 3 Marshals River. Fillies and mares going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf course. Again, you can find all the expanded analysis over on video.drf.com or the DRF YouTube channel. Mike, this is an interesting race for a few different reasons. I think you have some horses that are dependent on the lead, like I'm Betty G. You have horses that can be forwardly placed, like Valedictorian, or even a horse like Monte Cristo from the outside, but she's at least shown a little bit more versatility. Ultimately, a filly that you're interested in, I think she has that same versatility, and arguably she has more upside than anybody else in this field. That's La Signare.
Yeah, I think she has a lot more upside too. It's interesting because this is a Grade 3 race, and it just sort of feels like there aren't that many graded stakes quality horses in this field. I think that La Signare, though, might be serious graded stakes quality. We'll see what happens. They only got 3 starts into her last year as a 3-year-old, but I actually felt like she ran really well in all of them. We're going to take a look at her only win when they got her over here. This is the Grade 3 Wonder again at Belmont Park, 1 mile and an 1/8, and yeah, she's on the lead already. She's been on the lead right from the start in this race. She got loose on the lead in here. She had a relatively soft trip, and she's going to have something left here to turn away an odds-on favorite from the Chad Brown barn. Right here inside the final 8, significant form comes to her. You can see La Signare put her away. I like this performance from her, even with the loose lead early in this race. And I just sort of feel like she ran well enough from off the pace in her stateside debut to make me think she doesn't need the lead. And I think her Belmont Oaks, the Grade 1 after that at 1 1/4 mile, is a better effort than it looks on paper. She has to settle in this race. She can't get all keen and rank like she did last time. But I feel like if she can settle and get a good trip, man, I just feel like she might be better than these horses.
I think that, to me, that stateside debut and also that last run over in Europe for her, the fact that she came from slightly off of it and came with a nice run, that gives me the indication that perhaps she doesn't need the lead. And like you say, she's so lightly raced, I expect a forward move if she's ready to go off the bench. My filly's gone out a number of times already. That's the horse down on the inside, the number 1 Bellevase, goes out for Todd Pletcher. The My Charmer, she was bet down to 5-2, and she worked out really, in the grand scheme of things, a beautiful trip. We're going to pick it up as they're exiting the far turn. The little hiccups already happened down on the inside, where she kind of had to steady a little bit. Javier couldn't quite get her out, so instead he stayed down to the inside. At this point now, the other fillies are running away from her. Up on the front, you see Capla Temptress, you see La Moneda. Look, Bellevase was probably never ever going to win that race. I do think perhaps she would have been slightly closer had she not had her momentum briefly impeded. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about the 1 mile and a 16th on Saturday, but at the same time, if you think that there's going to be some speed that goes, perhaps she works out another stalking sort of pocket trip. And if that happens, maybe she doesn't have that little hiccup at the top of the lane. She may not be the most likely winner, but she has the highest last out buyer in the field with an 89. I'll give Bellevase another chance in here for Pletcher and Castellano in this year's Marshals River. We're going to ship all the way back out to Southern California. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather cooperates and we can see the Las Cienegas run down the hill. Let's take a look at that field. The 6th out at Santa Anita on Saturday. On paper is a nice race if it stays on the hillside turf course. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 3 Las Cienegas, and I say that with the caveat because with the amount of rain coming in, it sounds like there's a real scenario where this thing could be washed off the turf. If it's washed off, a horse like Selcourt probably becomes a 1-9 favorite on the main track. If it stays on the grass, Selcourt is unlikely to run down the hillside turf course. There's a million different things that can change with this race between now and the time that it's run. As always, you're going to always want to consult the Time Formulas pace projector. It will update based upon scratches and surface changes. If this race goes down the hill, Mike, I think you and I have got a couple of the more likely runners in here, but I think yours price might be a little bit more appetizing. Tesora did some nice things when she was in New York, most notably that Christie Cat 2-back.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like she should be a fair price if this race does stay on the turf. It'll be her first time down the hill, probably facing some better horses than she faced in that Christie Cat that we're going to look at. But, to me, it feels like she has the upside, and maybe she could take the step forward needed. This is her Christie Cat. She's off the pace, and this race you can see there's a little bit of give in the ground. So if there is rain, but we do stay on the turf, I think she'll handle it. I just like the way she finishes in here, Matt. The race set up pretty well for her. This wasn't the case one start prior to that at Saratoga where they just walked in front of her and she couldn't make up the ground. Here, she does make up the ground. I like the way that she finishes. All 3 times they've sprinted her on turf, I think she's run really well in those races. I think this is what she wants to do. And with painting corners in this race on the outside, there should be at least some pace for her to attack in this race. She's going to be a good price in this race. I think she has enough upside to improve enough to be a big factor in this field.
Yeah, the price to me is the most appetizing thing, where I think she's right there as a contender. And if you're going to get every bit of that 6-1 morning line or somewhere in that ballpark, I think she's very, very fair value. I'm going to go with, I think, the most obvious horse in the race drawn just to the outside. That's the number 4, Belvoir Bay. Belvoir Bay, we've talked about it so often in these stakes previews, talking about the hillside turf course at Santa Anita. The ultimate horse for course kind of angle, and Belvoir Bay, she fits that bill. She's 4 for 5 lifetime going down the hill, but we're going to go back to her most recent run, which happened to be out at Keeneland, and this was at 5.5 furlongs in the Buffalo Trace Franklin County Stakes. You're going to see her down on the inside, and it may not have been the most comfortable trip for her. She's going to eventually try to squeeze through. It's going to take her a little bit of time in behind traffic, and she's going to go on and finish very, very willingly down on the rail. The big piece for me, she's going to get back to Southern California, get back to the home cooking. I think that's going to help her. And ultimately, again, that 6.5 furlong distance down the hill, some horses like it, some horses don't. If you give her some pace, she can come from off of it. If no one decides to go, she can go on, take the initiative, and get the job done. She's 5-2. She probably comes down from there on the morning line. I just think Belvoir Bay is the most likely winner should this race stay on the turf course. We'll find out if that is the case. Jonathan Kinchin, he is taking a look at this race as well, the Las Cienegas. He's going to give you an exacta play there. And then David Aragona from Timeform US, he's going to take a look at the 7th race out at Aqueduct. After those segments, Mike and I will be back with our best bets for the weekend. Stay with us.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Happy New Year. Hope you had a great 2018. Good luck in 2019. In 2019, we're going to start it off a little bit different. Went cold on our multi-race bets. That's where I prefer to play. But unfortunately, when multi-race sequences don't work out, you got to find the intra-race to be able to play. I'm going to play some exactas in race 6 on Saturday at Santa Anita, the 6.5 down the hill turf course, grade 3, the Las Cienegas. There's 2 horses in here that I'm going to try to build my ticket around. 1 horse in here I'm going to try to fade. The horse that I'm going to try to fade is the 6 horse Celicourt. The horse was 5-1 in the filly and mare sprint coming in to that race off of 3 wins. Trying turf for the first time. I'm not saying that this filly can't do this, can't run well going down the hill or going 5 or wherever she decides to run on the grass. My problem with her is that she's got the big name. She's going to be bet based off of her Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint name showing up in that running line. Also, one of the other reasons I'm going to fade her is there's a lot of speed in here, and I think that this is going to kind of be a shocker for her, trying something new. She should be the inside of the speed horses from this spot. She's got speed to her outside. She should be pressured all the way around there, and I'm going to look for her another time. I think she'll probably take some money here. I'm going to key 2 horses, the 1 horse and the 9 horse. And I'm going to play some exactas. The first set of exactas, I'm going to play a $20 exacta 1-9 with 149. 1-9 with 149. And then I'm going to come back and play a $5 exacta 149 with 1-9. Essentially thinking the 1 and the 9 are going to run well, but I do expect Belvoir Bay could run well as well. On to the story about the 2 horses that I do like. Compelled, a filly that I think has always shown a lot of promise, has shown some ability going 2 turns on the grass, but ultimately I think she's going to excel at the turf sprint level. I think that she'll run well in this spot here. She should be able to take back. The inside's not ideal down the hill, but she should be able to take back, should have enough pace to run into, should be running down the lane. And then the outside horse for Peter Miller, the 9 horse Painting Corners. We've talked about it on the podcast all the time. Leading into these meet changes from Del Mar to Santa Anita, you're going to see horses that are going to run 5 furlong turf sprints down at Del Mar, 6.5 furlong turf sprints at Santa Anita. Those are 2 different races, and usually horses don't excel in those. They don't do well in both. Painting Corners, however, this year has 2 wins on those 2 different distances. I think it says a lot about her quality. I'm going to use her prominently in this exacta as well. Like I said, we're going to do a $20 exacta 1-9 with 149, and then we're going to do a $5 exacta 149 with 1-9 in case Belvoir Bay happens to get up and win the race. And the big value I think here is going to be trying to fade Celicourt, who I predict will take a little bit of money. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, David Aragona here with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We're going to take a look at the 7th race on Saturday at Aqueduct. It's a 1 mile race going one turn around the Aqueduct main track. It's an allowance race for non-winners of one, and it drew a pretty competitive 11-horse field. Some interesting horses in this race that have not run that many times, that have earned some pretty high speed figures. Horses coming off impressive maiden wins. The likely favorite House Limit comes off a 16-length maiden win at Aqueduct back in December. He's one that we definitely have to talk about, but I think we want to begin by taking a look at the Timeform US pace projector, because this race is predicted to feature a fast early pace. And you see on the outside the number 11 horse Stony Bennett is the one that's predicted to be in front early. He's coming out of sprint races, a bunch of 6 furlong efforts, and he's accustomed to setting some pretty fast fractions on the lead. And I think he's going to be sent to the front in here if he ends up starting in the race. Linda Rice is known to kind of take a look at races and sometimes reevaluate how horses are coming into starts. But if he runs in this race, he does seem like one that is going to be out in front. But there are plenty of others with speed. The number 1 horse Yamato Maker has shown some speed in prior starts, as well as the number 5 Westerdale, who won his maiden in wire-to-wire fashion back in February of last year. And the aforementioned House Limit is another one that figures to be up close to the pace. So if they go too fast up front, all of these horses could be somewhat compromised. Taking a look at that likely favorite House Limit, the number 8 horse, he's coming off a very visually impressive maiden win last time on December 7th. Now, I think what we have to note about this race is that there was just nothing of quality behind him in this field. And I think his massive margin of victory was totally a product of the quality of that field. You see the 92 Timeform US race rating over in the left-hand corner next to the conditions of the race. And that just indicates that this is a race that didn't feature any horses that had any real ability, because the preliminary race rating for this race is about 20 points higher than that 92 rating. So he's taking a huge step up in class. Now, he did earn a 107 Timeform US speed figure, which makes him relatively competitive with this field, but the buyer came up a little bit higher. And I just wonder if this horse is going to take way too much money off that performance as he's getting a real class test in this spot. I want to look elsewhere. I think a real rival for him is the number 6, Mr. Dougie Fresh, coming off a claim by Jason Service. This barn is very dangerous off the claim. I think you always have to respect anything they're sending out. And this horse, for his prior barn in Kieran McLaughlin's stable, ran a very competitive speed figure last time. That 113 Timeform US speed figure is one of the highest numbers in the field. I know he did it against Claiming Company, but he won that race well. The horse that he beat, Do You Know Something, actually showed up with a good effort that day. He's a horse that prior to that had run many fast speed figures back in the day, and he got back to one of his better efforts there. So I think Mr. Dougie Fresh did run legitimately well last time. It's just he's another horse that's going to take a lot of money off the layoff. He's got that totally exposed form from last time out, and I just want to look elsewhere because I think there are some more creative options in this race, including the number 7 horse Allured. It's a Chad Brown horse who's going to be a decent price, so I think you always want to be aware of that stuff. And he's just getting back out to the right distance, going a mile 2 back. He broke his maiden. Prior to that, he earned a 113 Timeform US speed figure, which matches Mr. Dougie Fresh's last number, even though he lost that maiden race back on October 5th. I thought he ran very well that day because the winner, Illudere, is a nice horse, and Allured had to go around the field on a day that you really wanted to be down towards the inside. He was wide coming into the stretch, and I thought he finished very well to be second that day. If he runs that race back, I think he's a legitimate player in here, and if he's around the 5-1, 6-1 on the morning line, I think he's a horse that you can definitely include. My top pick is the number 3, Why Not? I know Why Not is not really a winning type. He's only won 3 races in 24 starts, but I just think he's coming into this race in pretty good form for George Weaver, and he's faced some subtly tougher fields. Going back to that Empire Classic 2-back, a mile and 1/8 is just always a little bit too far for this horse, but I thought he did well to be 4th in that spot behind the very classy pat on the back. And then last time out, going 7 furlongs, he just could never really get out into the clear until very late in the stretch, and I thought he was coming on decently at the end of that race behind Stan the Man, and Honor Up, who came back to win with a fast speed figure. I think that's a quality race that he's coming out of, and I like that he's stretching back out to a mile. He's just a horse that seems to do his best running at this 1-turn mile distance. He's tried a mile 6 times in his career, has been first or second on 5 of those occasions, and often, especially in recent starts, he's either gone farther than a mile or shorter than a mile, and I think getting back to this distance is really going to work for him. You see George Weaver does very well off layoffs of this type, getting a 99 Timeform US trainer rating with horses coming off similar layoffs to this, and I just think Why Not? There are a lot of things going for him in this race, and he's one that will benefit from that projected fast pace. So hoping to get around 8-1 on Why Not. I think that's a fair price on him. He's my pick in Aqueduct's 7th race on Saturday. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Best bet time here on Out of the Gate. Mike, you're going to take a look at the featured event out at the Big A on Saturday.
Yeah, race 8 is for New York breds, the Safe Florida Sandy, 7 furlongs on the main track. You and I went through this race in the stakes preview, Matt. I think we made it pretty clear that Honor Up, the horse that I like, his chances have been diminished. Everybody seems to like this horse. And even if he does wind up winning, it's probably not going to be at the 9-2 he is on the morning line, but that's the kind of price I think I would definitely take on this horse. Here's his most recent start. This is a horse who has really improved since they've gotten him back to sprinting on dirt for the first time as a 2-year-old. In his last 3 starts, he's run really well. This is his most recent effort. You know, I like the way he held position in this race, Matt. He got sort of down inside through the turn, horses moving by him, but he didn't lose any position. And then he came with a really good finish up the inside to get up a career best 95 Beyer speed figure. He lands in a race here with plenty of pace for him to attack. I like the direction he's headed in. 9-2 seems like a very fair price to me on this horse.
I just love the finish down on the inside, like you say. The fact that it wasn't that he was in tight, but the way that he went and got the horses that were in front of him, I just think that bodes well for him going into this spot on Saturday afternoon. My horse watch, the horse that I'm going to make my best bet anyway, is in the 8th race at Tampa on Saturday. Now, there's a little bit of a story behind this filly called Countenance. Countenance is 4 years old. She goes out for Christophe Clement. I liked her in her career debut. I thought she had a little bit of trouble. They then moved her up to Aqueduct to a 1-turn mile on the main track, and then she was gone. She disappeared. Hadn't seen her from April until the beginning of December at the Tampa Bay Downs meeting. What you don't see first is she's about 4 or 5 wide throughout the first turn and onto the backside. What you're going to see right now as we throw up the replay is her fan about 15 wide. She's out into the grandstand right now, and unfortunately for her, she ran 1.25 miles in a mile race. This was her first start off of a long layoff. She was taking on older horses, first time on grass for the first time, and I don't think she's embarrassed. She only loses by about 3 lengths. She gave up about 85 lengths worth of ground, so I can't help but think that she's going to take a step forward here in this spot on Saturday. She's 9-2 on the morning line. You get the leading rider, Sammy Camacho, aboard down there for Clement. I just think there's a real scenario where you get every bit of that price because there's some other interesting high-profile outfits in this spot. Countenance, she can't possibly be any wider than she was in that race there on December the 8th. I'll give her a look in the 8th at Tampa Bay on Saturday afternoon for my best bet. We thank you for watching this edition of Out of the Gate. And again, you can follow all of our offerings over on Twitter at DRF Video. You can also follow everything that the Daily Racing Form has to offer over on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. Be sure to subscribe to the Daily Racing Form's YouTube channel. And also, as always, all the stakes previews with the expanded analysis is over on video.drf.com. Good luck to all of you this weekend when your horses break out of the gate.